I would like everyone here to take out their phones and take a picture of this moment right now. It could be a video too. It could be one of me or one of you, or just anything in this room really. Now, please save that picture that you've taken or that video you've taken. Don't delete it. I would like to tell you a story, or rather, a series of stories. When I was younger, every Sunday morning before church, my mom would hold my brother and I hostage, forcing us to take pictures of her. And when I say pictures, I mean like a whole photo shoot session with like 40 pictures in like 5 different locations inside the house. And I absolutely hated it. What I hated even more was when she would ask me to be in those pictures. And in the process of all this chaos, my dad would already be downstairs in the car, yelling, "Let's go to church, or we're almost late." And so every Sunday, we were late to church. Until this very day, we're still pretty much late to church because my mom does not miss out on her Sunday photograph sessions. But today, my brother is a photographer, and I am a content creator. So maybe I should have named this TED Talk, How My Mother Created Storytellers. But I don't want to give her all the credit alone. Because you see, I also grew up with a father who's an artist. And that meant that for every family event and for every photo shoot, we needed to go all out. I specifically remember my 10th birthday. I had photographers following me everywhere. We had a pre-birthday shoot, a birthday shoot, and then a post-birthday shoot. And then after that, we had CDs and albums from the event. And at that age, I just wondered, like, what is all the fuss about? When I turned 8, my dad got me my first camcorder. And because of it, I just loved being in front of the camera, recording myself and just random things around me. I also remember starting a fake show called the Triple F Show. Now, I started this show with 2 of my other friends whose names also started with F. And if you know anything about iCarly, then imagine a low-budget Nollywood version of that. And there you have it, the Triple F Show. But that was really the first time in my entire life that I was actively documenting my own moments. And it was only the beginning. Later on, when my dad found out about how much I hated reading books, he forced me to read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. At the time, he really just wanted me to read more books. But what he didn't know was that he was creating a new means for me to romanticize my life and document my own moments. Because once I began to read, I also began to want to write. And so I wrote. And I wrote about things that I saw and things that I couldn't see. I wrote about distinct smells and scents and colors and how they made me feel. I basically combined all the voices of all the writers I had ever read from until they sounded just like mine. And it was all these events combined that caused me to fully begin to romanticize my life, document my moments, and create a main character for my own story. Now, being a main character could mean having your own theme song, or wearing your signature outfit as often as you like. For me, being a main character looks like intentionally pronouncing my extremely long Yoruba name that really only my grandma calls me every time I introduce myself to someone new. Oluwafeyisayo. It really doesn't matter to me that the person is not going to remember or a person cannot pronounce that name. I say it anyways. I also love the idea of solo dates. But you know the best place to main characterize yourself? The airport. And I absolutely love the airport, and so my favorite thing to do while I'm at the airport is to go completely mute. Because I just love the idea of people creating their own stories or impressions about me, a mysterious traveler who's also the main character. And this is the first out of 3 steps to romanticizing your life and documenting the process, becoming the main character. And I can simply stand here and just ask you to go ahead and do that, but you may not understand. So I will tell you. I want you to think about your favorite movie or your favorite book or your favorite series. Think about your favorite main characters and the things you admire the most about them. Now think about your life as a book or a movie or series. I like to think of mine as a book, a blend of both prose and poetry without rhyme. Whatever that looks like for you, you are the main character. Now the question is, are you truly and fully embodying that main character energy that you love to watch or read about? And if not, then how can you do so? The first step is to be in love with yourself. And I know this is hard because even I'm struggling. But think about it. If you have absolutely no interest in the main character of the story, then why would you want to read or watch that story? You have to at least be at peace with your being to fully embody this main character energy. Next, you have to look and act the part. So go ahead and have an aesthetic, or have multiple aesthetics. It really doesn't matter. Just don't be afraid to do this because other people are already doing it, because no one is doing it like you. I'm taking a fictional writing class this semester, and the very first thing we learned in our very first class is to not be afraid to steal. And as the famous film writer Jim Jarmusch said, steal from anywhere that resonates with inspiration and fuels your imagination. If our old books, music, poems, dreams, random conversations, architecture, bodies of water, light and shadow, steal from only things that speak directly to your soul. And of course, you have to cite your sources. But the main point is, just go ahead and steal, because there's nothing new under the sun. I myself have studied a bunch of things from my favorite main characters. Someone once asked me why my favorite animal is the piglet. Well, piggies are actually really adorable, but it's mostly because of Mabel from Gravity Falls. I've decided to grow out my own nails like Justice from Poetic Justice. And I told myself that I'm never losing my Nigerian accent, because if I did, then how would you know that I'm a Nolly babe, like the beautiful and dramatic women from old Nollywood movies that I grew up watching? And I could stand here and go on and on about my favorite main characters and the bits and pieces I've stolen from them to invent myself. But if I did that, we wouldn't leave this place. So, I'm encouraging you to steal and then heavily romanticize that. Create for yourself a main character as wholesome as you want them to be. And don't be pressured to do that all in one day, because remember, you're always growing, and character development is what's necessary for an interesting story. The only problem that comes with being the main character is the issue of the main character syndrome. Now, main characters have to realize that yes, they're main characters in their own story, but they're also side characters in other people's stories. I like to think of this as the beauty of crossovers. And if you grew up watching Disney like me, then you know the joys of seeing Hannah Montana in an episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. This is also the reason why there's separate movies for Spider-Man, separate movies for Iron Man, and separate movies for all the Avengers. Proof that main characters can exist in the same space. This doesn't make us any less of ourselves. It just reminds us that this world does not revolve around us. The next step is to find a documentation avenue. Now, before the COVID-19 pandemic began, I thought I was at the peak of my life. I was just starting a YouTube channel, and I was basically doing everything I really wanted to do. And so when we had to stay indoors, I fell into depression, because it meant that I couldn't go home, and I couldn't do anything I really wanted to do. But in those times, what kept me going, like many other people, was the visible memories of the things I had done with people I loved in the past. But also in those times, I was reminded that I hadn't documented enough. And that documentation is proof that these events were not just made up in my head. One way I'm choosing to document my life is through photography. This year, I'm partnering with my amazing photographer friend Tifi, who's also in the crowd right now. We are basically, documenting my artistry. Now, I'm a hair braider, or a stylist, or an architect, call it whatever you want really. But we're essentially creating a series of images of me with beautiful Afrocentric hairstyles. Now, I would like some of them to look like these hair posters and magazines stuck on the doors and walls of Lagos salons that I grew up going to as a child. And he showed me a mood board of what he would want some of them to look like. They remind me of this ancient Yoruba Ife art with the elaborate hairstyle. and I absolutely love it, because it also reminds me that my artistry is an inheritance. See, I realized that I possess a cultural legacy that I will pass to the next generation, and so I never want to lose proof of that. This is why I decided to document that. You are the actor in your story, but you are also the director, the producer, and the rest of the crew. And so you're very much responsible for telling your own story. Thankfully, we are in the 21st century, and this is fantastic, because it just means that we have more than enough resources to document our amazing moments. So, go ahead and make a video or a TikTok, and then take as many pictures as you'd like. And if there's no one to take pictures of you, then buy a tripod and a remote control and do it yourself. Because let me tell you, this is peak main character behavior. And this is practically how I make most of my content. Voice notes are also a really amazing way of documenting your life. And anyone who knows me knows that I would listen to a song just because it has a voice note in it. I'm terribly obsessed with those. But that's a conversation for another day. Writing is another fantastic avenue for documentation. And it's perhaps my favorite. You see, I just love how writing can be so descriptive and how it can tell so many stories that other documentation avenues cannot tell. In fact, during the lockdown, it was through writing that I was able to preserve my thoughts. The killing of George Floyd, may his soul rest in peace, evoked so many emotions globally, specifically within the Black community. I, who was already going through depression, felt even more disheartened and unsafe. George Floyd was killed because of an identity that we both share, being Black in America. And so, I decided to write about it because I felt so many emotions, one of them being rage. This was the only way I could fully express myself. I wrote a grief diary, one through the eyes of a complex being. And I basically created a semi-fictional version of myself that underwent a spiritual awakening, transformed into a three-headed version of my spirit, soul, and body. And I'll read an excerpt from it to you. Rage. On the seventh day, God rested. On the sixth day, I vexed. On the sixth day, I rolled up my sleeves, fell on my knees. I lifted my clenched fist to the sky. I did not cry or wail or weep. I opened my eyes, allowed my pupils to hide, my eyes now bulging and veiny, threatening to bleed. I inhaled hate, and I exhaled anger. I glitched. My head tore into three, my third eye opened. I levitated. My feet did not touch the ground. I didn't speak, didn't scream, did not cry. I let fire escape from my mouth and my throat, and from within me, and through my nostrils, and then the pores of my hairs. It burned me, and I let it. I held my breath, let tears, a thick metallic scented burgundy fluid, something like the blood I bathed in. I morphed. Kinks sprouting from my roots, braids unweaving themselves simultaneously, heads and necks struggling for dominance, jaws clenching, arms twisting, knees knocking, skin tearing, then stitching itself back together. Rip so, rip so, rip so, again and again and again. I saw with my third eye, not outside, but inside. More blood, boiling, rushing up and out. It blocked my nostrils, and I couldn't breathe, again. I fell to the ground. I lay in a pile of prickly extensions, 3 necks continuously knotting and strangling me, 3 heads merging back into one. My body drank and swallowed the blood that oozed through my opening, and my third eye closed. On the 6th day, I stared at God who I could not see, and I said, I cannot breathe, just like the words of George Floyd before he was murdered. Now, when I look back at my words, I feel grateful that I was able to document this. Because even though my mind was never able to fully recapture this emotion or these emotions that I felt, I know that they were real and that they were very much valid. Romanticizing your life isn't always positive. Because let's face it, life isn't just full of the positives. There's a thin line between positively romanticizing your life and simply glorifying struggle. You don't want to do the second part. But we can't ignore the negatives. Because remember, conflict is important for character development. So, do not underestimate the power of documentation while you are romanticizing your life. Because even if it hurts in that moment, in the future, you won't regret it. The third and final step is to take those 2 steps I talked about, combine them, and just go ahead and do it. You've always wanted to do a bunch of things, then write a bucket list and just do them. You love how the sky is looking today, then take a picture of it, or even paint it. Write about the person you like and how they make you feel, even if they have absolutely no idea you exist. Romanticize that. Create for yourself a video diary, and then maybe start it with, "Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel." Or possibly end it with, good luck Charlie." Or be like me and give a TED talk, and then have your friends record it. It really doesn't matter. Just go ahead and do it. So today, I urge you to be at the center of your story. Fully bask in every moment of your life, and then document it like a story to leave for your children and their children, or a younger you, or a you from another life. Because here's what happens when you do so. You have the most amazing and wholesome moments to look back on and smile at, and then you have proof that it happened and that you were there. On the 20th of October in 2020, the Nigerian government took the lives of innocent civilians during the EndSARS protests. Now, I never want future Nigerian generations and global citizens to be unaware of this event, like I was kept in the dark about the Nigerian Civil War and the Biafra. And so, I decided to write about it. For me, doing this is a way of keeping moments alive. As a Black African woman from Nigeria, I have already had enough of my history erased. To not document what I'm living through right now would be a great disservice to my future generations. So, I've chosen to document that. Lastly, I've chosen to romanticize my life and document the process, to show young Black girls who look like me, or as one of my favorite writers, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said, girls with skin the color of chocolate, whose kinky hairs cannot form ponytails, that they too can exist unapologetically in literature, on screens, and in fairy tales. Thank you.